This is my Lenovo ThinkPad model X130e from 2012. This laptop has been a mainstay of my YouTube channel for the past 5 years, always being at my beck and call in a video whenever I needed to show something on the internet. I bought this laptop in April of 2012 for about $600. Brand new. It was the first brand new computer I ever owned. And I bought it basically as a graduation gift, although technically I bought it with my own money. Because basically I wanted a small laptop that I could take to school and back with me. Just something small and light, and this was what I chose. This laptop was not my first choice that I would have bought back in 2012, but it did end up being, in hindsight, the best choice. My first choice when I was looking for a new laptop was the Toshiba NB555, a cheaper, smaller, weaker laptop that was nonetheless really attractive to me. And I really looked hard for a place I could buy one from, but it turned out that at that time Toshiba had just discontinued it, and none of the online retailers I probed sold it anymore. There was no way I could find one, so I had to go and look somewhere else. Back in 2012, your really stereotypical cheap netbooks were still popular, you know, the 10-inch Acer Aspire 1s and those things. Those were still popular, but I wanted something that had a bit more power to it. I basically wanted something that was at least as good as my main computer at the time, which was the Dell Inspiron 1525, which was a 15-inch laptop, and a bit too big for my needs, which is why I was looking for a new, smaller laptop. So I went on Lenovo's website online and I bought this thing. It arrived totally busted. It was damaged in shipping. The screen was destroyed. A bunch of plastic panels on the bottom were broken, and the thing was just a mess. And I ended up having to call Lenovo, tell them it was damaged in shipping, so they sent me a shipping label and I shipped it back, and they sent me another one, and that was this one, which arrived fine and is still working, as you see here 5 years later. But unfortunately, the purpose of this video is to announce that I am officially retiring this laptop. After 5 years of really impressively good service, it's time for this thing to go. And here's why. Basically, this thing still suited my needs perfectly fine, but it's beginning to break down. Parts are beginning to fail on it. Let me explain how. Well, the first thing that failed on this laptop was actually when it was only a year old, just after the warranty ended. The card reader failed. I don't even know where it is because I've never used it in years. It's right here. It's an SD card slot. When this thing was about a year old, it's just failed. It stopped working. It dropped off the face of the earth. The computer doesn't even act like it exists anymore. When it originally stopped working, I thought it might be a driver thing. And yeah, it turns out it's not. The motherboard doesn't even detect it as a hardware component anymore. It's just literally like it doesn't exist. So it just totally failed. So yeah, that was when this thing was about a year old. About 2 or 3 years ago, the battery started really wearing down. When I bought this thing, I was just floored at how good the battery life was. If I tried hard enough, I could get 12 hours of continuous runtime out of this. Even not trying hard, you know, and just using it like I normally would, I'd still get 7 or 8 hours out of it. It truly was remarkable. But when the thing was about 2 or 3 years old, the battery started wearing down. It sharply fell to a runtime of about 2 hours, and then an hour and a half. And then, as about a few months ago, I could still get about an hour of use out of it. But then the battery just totally failed. The Windows can't read the percentage anymore. It just always displays 100%. So when you unplug it, it still runs off the battery, but the percentage displays 100% right up until the battery just completely dies and the laptop just does a hard shut off. And that happens in about half an hour now. So the battery has totally failed, but it's been on a downward spiral for the past 2 or 3 years. You might notice right here, in fact you've probably seen in earlier videos, the ThinkPad logo up here, or down here, is gone. That fell off a couple of years ago. It was just a sticker held with really terrible adhesive, and yeah, it just fell right off. The other one on the display is still there though. Likewise, one of the stickers here, the useless advertisement stickers, that fell off around the same time actually. And then this one is just faded. But yeah, I don't care about that, that's totally cosmetic. And then the latest thing that broke down, which normally is not what would have spelled the end of this thing, but it has for another reason, which I'll explain in a minute, is that the R key on the keyboard has totally stopped working. It does not respond at all anymore. I've had the key off. I even removed the rubber cup under the key and examined the switch. The switch is just totally non-functional now. I don't know what happened, but the key is totally non-functional. The only way to fix it would be to get a new keyboard. You can get a new keyboard for about $30. Normally I'd do that, no problem. Likewise, you can get a new battery for about $30, generic battery. And yeah, I'd have no problem paying the $60 to get a new keyboard and a new battery. But here's the thing, here's another thing. Since the R key quit on this thing, you know, I can't use it anymore, I can't type on it. So I've been using another laptop. You guys noticed that laptop in my last couple of videos of the Motorola Moto G, and you people have been asking, oh, what is this new laptop? Well, that was my mistake. I should have hidden it because I haven't been ready to make a video of it yet. It's not new, it's actually far older than this. It's one of the laptops I pulled out of the e-waste pile back in 2015. But yeah, I'll be making a video of that laptop really soon. But since this thing is no longer useful to me, I've been using that laptop. And here's what I discovered. This was the thing that was the nail in the coffin for this computer. I think I've mentioned before that the internet here where I live is just totally terrible. The connection drops continuously, and whenever I have the computer like over there on the table where I do my homework, the signal is just, it's off more than it's on. In fact, if you take a look right now, I don't know if it'll focus, but the Wi-Fi meter there is showing 3 out of 5 bars. That's actually exceptional. That's excellent. When I'm lucky, it shows 2 out of 5. Normally it shows 1 out of 5, and half the time, especially when I'm on the other end of the room, it just drops the signal completely. Well, guess what? It turns out that's not a fault of this place. Since I've started using the other laptop gets a perfect 100% signal strength signal everywhere in this room. I couldn't believe it. So it turns out that the Wi-Fi on this thing is actually just breaking down as well. And I should have known this, because over the March break, when I was home and I had this thing, I noticed that it would occasionally drop the signal at Mom's house. Which it's never done before. It was the first time I ever noticed that, and I thought, wow, that's really weird. Yeah, it turns out the Wi-Fi in this thing is just breaking down. I don't know if the radio is breaking down or if something's gone wrong with the antennas or what. I don't know, I don't care, but yeah, turns out this thing just has really crappy Wi-Fi, and I've lived for years in this room with barely functional Wi-Fi, and it was all of this laptop, not the internet. So that really sucks, and that's the nail in the coffin for this thing. So I've called it quits for this laptop. It was a good 5 years. It served me extremely well. I haven't given it an easy life. Once or twice I dropped it from a couple of feet high, didn't phase it. Of course, this thing has a mechanical hard drive, but it also has Lenovo's Harddrive Protection, where when the laptop is jostled, it parks the hard drive for a few seconds and then it resumes once it's detected that it's stable again. So that's saved me a couple of times. Twice I spilled soda on the keyboard, never phased it. Yeah, it's just been a really good computer. I just thought of something else that's gone wrong over the years as well. This thing is now on its 3rd AC adapter. The original one broke a couple of years ago. What happened was the wire split right at the end of this strain relief here, and the wires just, you know, the casing here split, and then the wires just broke in it. There was no continuity in it anymore. So I bought a used, genuine Lenovo adapter on eBay, and that broke a year later, just a few months ago. So now this thing's on its third AC adapter, and I'm kind of surprised because I've asked other people who own ThinkPads, because all ThinkPads now use the same AC adapter. And I asked people and they're like, no, I've never had an issue with that. And it's like weird. Maybe I'm just really rough on this, I don't know. Yep, I've decided to call it quits for this thing. It served me well. For $600, I would have liked to have not had as much trouble with it as I'm having now. The card reader breaking, I think, is stupid. The R key breaking, I think, is stupid. That shouldn't have happened. I can forgive the battery wearing down. That's unavoidable, but yeah. Anyway, it did well. The opinion of some people is I let this thing go way too far before stopping using it, because it is very underpowered now. At the time I bought this wasn't anything to sneeze at. This was actually the second most powerful 11-inch laptop you could buy in 2012. The most powerful was the Intel version of this computer. I got the AMD version because the AMD version has better graphics, and that was a very smart choice. Something that was also really smart is when I bought this thing, I paid the extra $40 for the upgraded CPU and graphics. The standard CPU and graphics in this thing were an AMD E300 with Radeon HD 6062 something, I don't remember. But I paid $40 extra to get the upgraded AMD E450 CPU with the Radeon HD 6320 graphics, which was a really smart choice, or else by now this thing possibly would just be way too underpowered to be useful. But up to this point, it still had enough power to do everything I want to do. It plays YouTube just fine. You have to be patient with it on the internet, but overall it's done really well. I never had to upgrade the RAM. I never had to change out the hard drive. It's just been super, and the Radeon graphics in this thing was just excellent for editing YouTube video. It had the most powerful graphics of any computer I'd ever owned, and it was a real godsend for stuff like editing video. Up until a few months ago, I had never possessed another computer that could even nearly match this thing's graphics power, but I do own a computer now. I haven't shown it yet. It'll come in a future video, but based on what I had researched before benchmarking that new computer, I didn't think that, according to the benchmarks, it shouldn't have been any better than this. But when I tested that computer that I have now, the graphics power blows this thing out of the water. So yeah, this thing no longer reigns supreme in my fleet of computers for graphics power. So yeah, it's time for this thing to go. It did well. It was really, you know, I took this thing everywhere during my first couple of years of university. I took it to school with me. Because of its long battery life, I could just take it to school, and I wouldn't even bother using lab computers. Just all day, I would use this thing at school. I'd just leave the AC adapter at home, and I'd get home and I'd still have like 30-40% battery life left. It was just wonderful. I did everything on this for the first couple of years I owned it. And you know, I've started using it less and less as the years went on, although it still remained my main computer. And now it's breaking down, and it's time for it to go. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to use this anymore. I'm going to pull the hard drive out of it, because there's, as you can see here, I don't do a good job with my electronic housekeeping. There's a lot of stuff on here that I've got to clean off and organize and stuff. I'm going to yank the hard drive. I might yank the RAM. I'm not sure, but I am going to yank the hard drive. And I'm going to throw this thing on eBay. If I can get $50 for it, I'll be happy. If I can't get $50 for it, I'll get whatever I can for it. But I'd like to keep the RAM just for use in a future computer if I ever get one. But the problem is when you take the hard drive out of a computer, it's not a big deal, because when a lot of people buy used computers, they like to replace the hard drives with SSDs anyway. But when you take the RAM out, it really reduces the value of the computer, I think, because once the new owner gets the computer, they can't test it. They can't turn it on and test it until they get their own RAM to put in it. So, I don't know. I might keep the RAM in it. I suppose 4 gigabytes is a little on the slack side now anyway. If I ever bought a new computer, and presumably I'd get one that takes DDR3 like this does, I'd want to buy 8 gigs for it rather than waste the money and only buy 4 gigs. So I might keep the RAM, I might not, I don't know. But anyway, that's about it for this thing. Overall, it did really well. This is still the toughest computer I've ever seen. When I bought this thing and I checked it out when I got it, I couldn't believe how just well built it is. The plastic is super thick, especially on the display here. Super thick plastic. You could stand on this thing and it wouldn't break the display. And also the hinges have held up quite well. There's no play. There's a little bit of slack there. They've gotten slightly loose over the years, but there's no play. They're still tight. And yeah, I've accidentally hit the display with stuff a few times and it's never broken. And yeah, overall it did really well. Check out the wear on that trackpad. I used this thing, I just ran this into the ground. I doubt it's really worth anything other than scrap value now, but I'll see if I can get anything for it since it is still otherwise working. And yeah, that's about it. So say goodbye to the Lenovo ThinkPad X130e. It served me well for 5 years. I would have liked for it to have not broken down the way it did, or else I'd use it longer, but I think all in all, it did quite well. I'm satisfied with how it treated me over the years. And yeah, that's it. So the computer I'm using now, I've never made a video of, so I gotta do that. That'll probably be the next video. And that's it. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.